All right. Let's start off by saying Barak Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rucha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is We're One Excited, Not Too Excited. Joined here with the Elder Kanak.
Shalom.
And so far I see 0.
0, 0.
You know, I don't see anybody in there. So, somebody just came in there. So they probably messing with the views. And pretty much, what we're talking about is this whole situation where, Israel attacked Iran. And pretty much right now, Iran is retaliating by dropping, a whole bunch of missiles on Israel. And we know that this is part of prophecy. You got clowns out there saying that Jeremiah 49 and 20, and then in you see the Jeremiah 50 or 51, where it speaks about the least of the flock, drawing them out. That's not what that's talking about. Well, you're gonna find out. Nevertheless, this is a very important pivotal point in prophecy. But the reason why we're not too excited is because we know that the MOTB system has to be fully implemented and in place and pushed on the majority of the planet before the end can come. Now, let's say that was happening right now and the majority of the planet had already got that, and this was to happen, then we knew we was right there at the door, But we know that MOTB is a very important, major, prophecy that has to be fulfilled before, the very end can come. So right now we're just at the stage where the contractions are getting closer and closer. It's getting more intense. Things are ramping up. And we're it's like the head of the baby's there, ready to come out, but it's not it ain't ready yet.
Haven't fully breached.
That's it.
It needs more of a push, more of a stronger contraction for the baby to fully breach out of the mother's womb.
That's it.
I got the second Ezra 4.
Yeah, bring it up.
Yeah, this is second Ezra 4 and 37.
You can start at 36.
36,
Yeah.
Second Ezra 4 and 36. And unto these things Uriel the archangel gave them answer and said, even when the number of seeds is fulfilled in you, for he has weighed the world in the balance.
Yeah, so the Lord pretty much weighed the world in the balance. Everything is set in the balance. The Lord gave these devils, they actually put their paws on the book so they know the distinguish between good and evil. They know how to judge, but they're not going to judge rightfully because they are the wicked. So the Lord got them in the balance. Go ahead.
By measure has he measured the times, and by number has he numbered the times. And he does not move nor stir them until the said measure be fulfilled.
Right, so the said measure has not been fully fulfilled as far as the MOTB system is concerned, which is the micro CHIP. Now, once that is fully implemented, then, we could start jumping for joy even more. Not saying that we're not excited, but we just one excited. We're not too excited because, until that major prophecy of the MOTB comes to pass, ain't nothing else going to really fully move. But what we are seeing now is all of the different pieces of prophecy moving into place, to be fulfilled, because now that tension is there even further. And who's the one that set off that tension? Well, you guessed it, the JOOS's.
Yeah, the least of the flock. That's part of the prophecy. Like the prophet said, all the puzzle pieces are being moved into their position in order for, that final prophecy, the prophecy that's going to really speed everything up, speed our salvation up, the MOTB. But we're seeing how they're using all this chaos. They're using the war with Iran in the state of Israel. They're using Jacob as a scapegoat to bring in the military troops, the militarize the police force. So we're seeing all the puzzle pieces being put in place in order for the MOTB system to be justified in pushing on the people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So that was it on that,
Yeah,
right?
that was it on that.
Jump down to the 5th chapter, 5, and you can start at 1. You know, so this is what we're waiting for. You know, so trust and believe. We've been there, many times where it seemed like this was the thing that was going to make it all happen, and then it kind of dies down. It builds up, dies down. It builds up, dies down. What that's called is those are rumors of wars.
Well, also contractions.
Yep.
Because sometimes you'll have a contraction where it looks like the baby is about to come, and then it dies down.
Yep.
And then another contraction and dies down. They're like, the baby gonna come or not? It's like it's playing around.
Yep.
As it says, Habakkuk, though it tarry, wait for it, for it shall surely come.
Beautiful.
2 Ezra 5 and 1. Nevertheless, as coming the tokens, behold, the days shall come that they which dwell upon earth shall be taken in a great number.
And this will be coming to the time of Jacob's trouble. It's the time of Jacob's trouble, like Elder Pastor said, it's the time of Esau's trouble, the time of the nation's trouble, especially anyone that's here on the soils of America. So concerning these tokens, the time's going to come when people are going to be taken in great number. Because we got to remember that these devils have an agenda, and their agenda, is predicated on reducing the population of the earth. And a lot of these people that are out here, which they consider to be useless eaters, and that's what they call them, are going to be, culled out of the way.
It says, and the way of truth shall be hidden.
Right, and the way of truth shall be hidden. So there's been a long period of time where the way of truth was hidden. And even though now the truth is out and it's becoming more and more popular, it's still hidden. That's why it says, there's going to come a famine of hearing of the word. That's twofold. It's dealing with, the Lord's going to call back his prophets from teaching, and people are going to be looking for it. But also, even right now, people aren't listening to the truth. So really, there's a famine of the word in the majority of these people's ears, because they hear what's being said, but they don't accept it.
Yeah, hidden in plain sight.
Yep.
And then you have a lot of these stumbling blocks as well. These false Israelite teachers, these individuals that are set up to, pretty much put a stumbling block in front of Jake so they won't be able to get the truth.
Mm-hmm.
It says, and the way of truth shall be hidden, and the land shall be barren of faith.
Right, the land shall be barren of faith, and that's what you see happening right now. Because there's very few Israelites out there that are part of the elect. So there's very few Israelites. When I mean that, I mean the elect that really are locked in to this thing. Majority of Jake, when they come to the truth, and I use that term loosely because they don't really come to the truth. They're pretty much on, entertainment mode. What the Lord could do for them, what the Lord can offer them. Like they're doing the Lord a favor by coming into this thing. And first of all, you don't come into this thing. The Lord brings you into it.
A quick precept.
Bring it out.
This is 2 Ezra 8 and 3. There be many created, but few shall be saved.
That's it. There be many created, but few shall be saved. That's why Yahweh said, many are called, but few are chosen. So that's why there's a sifting ground going on. And the sifting ground, is set up with a lot of different stumbling blocks. Because those are the sifting agents that the Most High, Yahweh Bashem El-Shai, set up, to separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak,
Yep. I'm back in 2 Ezra 5, verse 2. But iniquity shall be increased above that which now thou seest.
Right, because remember, the angel told Ezra that from the time of the beginning until the time that Ezra was on the scene, iniquity had abounded greatly. He said, how much more iniquity shall be abounded, even towards the end, meaning speaking about these times, and the world is at the peak of wickedness. People, like at one point, people would maybe think twice before they'll do certain things. Now people don't think. They just do whatever the fuck they want to do. Because this is the spirit that the wicked, which are the Edomites, put out there. Do whatever you want. Do as thou wilt. Don't worry. There's no penalties for it. But the Lord is going to judge the world because of the iniquity that's going on in it.
Yep. It says, but iniquity shall be increased above that which now thou seest, or that thou hast heard long ago.
Yep.
Yeah, because you had the flood, and iniquity abounded then, and the Most High took them out. But it's going to actually surpass the iniquity of old. Okay, it says,
that's right.
And the land that thou seest now to have root, shall thou see wasted suddenly.
Right. Thou see, meaning the land of Israel, is going to be wasted suddenly because the Lord is going to take that land out. But he's going to. The difference is that he's going to restore it. And in America, which is Babylon the Great, forget about it. This place is going to be totally annihilated. There's not going to be a blade of grass. There's not going to be anything that resembles America. The only thing that's going to be here is it's going to be set up as a memorial, a monument.
It says, what the fuck?
What happened?
I don't know. My phone just started
bugging out. Yeah. No. It's all good. These phones been acting up.
2 Ezra 5.
Well, remember they want to phase the phones out by 2030.
Yep. 5 and 4. But if the Most High grant thee to live, thou shalt see after the third trumpet that the sun shall suddenly shine again in the night.
Watch out. Yeah, we're at the point now where, the sun is a representation of the truth. It's shining brightly out here. But the thing about it is that not every Israelite out there is going to be able to receive it. To them, it's going to be like, some people look in the sun and they got to wear shades because they're what's that word when you're sensitive? Yeah, sensitive to the sun. Well, most Jakes are sensitive to the truth. They can't, it's like roach spray to them.
Yep. It says, and the moon thrice in the day, and blood. We're gonna make a left. And blood shall drop out of wood.
Yep.
And stone shall give his voice, and the people shall be troubled.
Right, because when the destruction comes, you're gonna see buildings collapsing, people getting fucked up, and even now there's stuff going on in the infrastructure where people are getting jacked up, and things are happening. So how much more when the destruction comes? Matter of fact, that goes hand in hand with Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter. Because this place was built upon blood, and it's going to go out by blood, by violence.
Yep. It says, and even he shall rule whom they look not for that dwell upon the earth. And the fowl shall take their flight away together. And the Sodomitous sea shall cast out fish.
Yeah.
And make a noise in the night.
Yeah, because pretty much this society, America, Babylon the Great, this is spiritually known as Sodom, and the spirit that they're pushing out there to the world is that. But it's funny because in the midst of all this chaos going on here in America, right? They're having this parade.
Pride parade.
Canceled. Okay. So what's going on?
Well, I think that was the same thing that happened during the COVID. They canceled it, man. And then when they opened it back up, they went buck wild.
Yep.
And the Sodomitous sea shall cast out fish and make a noise in the night, which many have not known.
Yeah.
But
because the American people are used to easy life, easygoing life. Yeah, you got to go to work, you struggle to pay your bills and stuff. But as far as, always constantly worried that there's going to be some kind of disaster, calamity, the majority of American people are not thinking like that. You have crime, of course, but when you go to these third world countries, or what they call third world countries, people are on alert at all times, always looking around. You don't know who's going to rob you, who's going to kill you. So it's like a lot of tension. But in America is just in that careless, laid-back spirit.
Well, the Elder Gad, he was telling a story about a Jamaican, a Jake, that was out in Iran while all this stuff was going down. and he was spooked. And the Iranian people, man, just enjoy yourself, man. Just enjoy your vacation. You know what I mean? This is nothing. This is nothing to us, because they're used to that. They're used to being in that warlike state. They know at any given moment, war can break out, and they are glad to go and fight and die for their country. Here in Babylon the Great, what the scriptures say, the mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holes. They have become as women. Because a woman is not ready for the battle to go out there and shed her blood and take down the enemy. That's the careless spirit here in Babylon the Great, is as a woman. Okay.
Yeah, and then those people out there, they're hardened, to those hardships. One thing about living a hard life, it makes you hard. Like the old saying, hard times make hard men. Hard men make easy times make weak men make hard times. You see? So the hard times that these people are accustomed to is like an everyday thing. Just like Jake in the hood, Jake in the hood, if he was to move in the hood, right, that they don't want to, but they said they had to move in the hood, and they heard gunshots and all kind of shit every day, they'll be stressed the fuck out. But that to Jake, that's like nothing. That's to Jake, hearing gunshots in the hood and Jake beefing with each other is as sure as the sun's gonna come up. But they're hardened to that, good.
Yeah, no, it's an everyday thing. It's just an everyday thing. It's not a big deal. They expect that to happen. Well, a lot of them are part of it.
Yeah.
So it's just another day at the office.
That's it
for Jake. But to see the sorrow that's coming to Babylon the Great, this is unprecedented. This has never happened. Right. You have not experienced. You're not going to experience. You have not experienced the things that are getting ready to come down here, which these other so-called third world countries they experience it on a daily. They don't have fast food. They don't have clean drinking water. Their countries under economic sanctions, embargoes. You Americans have never experienced you being under an embargo. You being nations not trading with you, a lack of resources. It tells you that in Luke the 21st chapter how it talks about perplexity. Okay, a lack of resource. You've never been in that situation where you go to the grocery store and there's only 2 of the items, and we see that every once in a while, Black Friday and stuff like that. What do people do? They fight over it. Okay. That's says. And that reminds me of Daniel 12:1, the time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation even to that same time, because things are going to keep escalating. There's going to come a point where, like right now we have, the things ramp up and then they calm down. They ramp up and they calm down. But if you notice, they're ramping up and calming down, but it's a lot more stuff happening. There's going to come a point where it's not going to calm down. That's why I said a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation even to that same time. So it's going to be intense, and it's going to continue to get more and more intense. And, the more the dollar is being devalued, the harder the life of the average American is going to get. You see? And these Americans, especially Edomites, are not used to these types of hardships. Jake is used to it, Jake is already used to it. They're not used to going through economic woes. They're used to always having, good, always doing good. The refrigerator always full. No worries, no financial stress. That's a big stress. No really bad health problems and a lack of medical treatment. It's like going back to the woman with contractions. When a baby is getting ready to come, the contractions are closer together. And they're stronger in intensity. So as we get closer to the final day of the Lord, it's going to be one event after another. They're going to be in succession with each other, very, very close together, and they're going to be more intense. So just like this thing with Iran and Israel, this is more intense because it has happened before, but people are on a little bit more on an edge. But it's not going to slow. It might die down, but it's not going to slow up.
Right.
The prophecies are full steam ahead.
That's it.
Okay.
That's a lesson. The prophecies are full steam ahead.
It says that which, let me read it again, verse 7. And the Sodomite sea shall cast out fish and make a noise in the night, which many have not known. there shall be a confusion.
Because all these things are going to, like the scripture says, shall the trumpet be blown in the city and the people not be afraid. So there's going to be things, people are used to certain things, but there's going to be events that take place that the average American is not used to. This is going to cause great confusion. It's going to cause distress, perplexity, as the elder quoted earlier. It's going to cause a lot of, people to lose it because they have nothing else to lose. When people have nothing to lose, they lose it, right?
They're going to lose their hope. It tells you that in Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter. When they look out of the windows, it shall be darkened. They're going to lose hope in the American government structure. It tells you in that 15th chapter how there should be sedition among men. They should not regard their kings nor their princes. So, as Gerald Salente say, when people have nothing else to lose, they lose it. And we're going to see that in live. How people are already losing it over these so-called these anti-ICE protests. And it's not going to get easier. It's going to get harder. It's going to be more woes. It's going to be because right now there's still food on the table. What happens when the famine really starts to increase? The evil arrows of famine. Okay, the Lord is going to slowly start to increase the famine, meaning He's going to pull back certain goods from you. All right, there's going to be shortages. That's going to make people go crazy. Them parasites in your body that want all that fried chicken. Okay, them eggs. And that bread. They're gonna make you do some crazy shit, which is nothing other than demons. That's gonna make these people just go wild. Okay.
And then I'm not, and this these hardships, especially economic hardships, food hardships, are gonna cause the average person to say, "Fuck these politicians." Fuck the president, fuck the politicians, fuck these cops and all of that, because they're gonna be looking out for self. Now, I'm not sure. I believe that's in Minnesota. I'm not sure exactly. Something that's fresh off the press is these two representatives of the government. I forget their titles. They just got smoked. Now, we don't know if that was something that was set up. Maybe they were gonna expose, the fraud of the United States government. They took them out, or maybe somebody took them out. Whatever the case may be. But that's going to be a daily occurrence, because this mindset that the people are in today is going to get more and more desperate, and it's going to lead to anarchy, like in the first purge. They're going to be grabbing up judges. They're going to be grabbing up, these different politicians. They're going to be taking them out. Why? Because these people that voted for these different positions of these different, politicians really believed that these politicians were going to make a difference. And they seeing that their situation is getting worse and worse when they were promised that it was going to get better and better.
What is that in Batman? I don't know if it was the Dark Knight, is the one with Bane.
I believe it was the Dark Knight.
Yeah, the Dark Knight, where Bane, basically they took the government and they put them on trial, and it was pretty much a kangaroo court. It was a mock trial. Basically, they were all sentenced to death. So that's the sentiment of the people. Is like they're gonna blame who? They're gonna blame their representatives. They're gonna blame the police force. Are they gonna be fighting against the military? Are these militias are gonna be activated? Okay. There's gonna be a lot of insurrection going on, a lot of division. Okay. So-called civil wars, race wars, class wars.
Because these politicians, they're supposed to be the managers of society. They're supposed to be the ones that keep everything in its proper order. That's why so-called funds are relegated to them, so that they can make the community better, safer for the people, affordable, so on and so forth. But they're seeing that these politicians are corrupt. All they do is stuff their pockets with the money that you give to so-called help you.
Verse 8, it says, there shall be...
And you haven't learned, after all these years, the same bullshit, the same fucking play from the playbook over and over again. And they promise you the world and don't give you shit. But you people don't fucking learn.
It says, there shall be a confusion also in many places, and the fire shall be oft sent out again, and the wild beasts shall change their places, and minstrous women shall bring forth monsters.
Yeah, because you're gonna have wild beasts coming up out of their habitat, because pretty much the cities are built on what used to be, forests. So the animals are gonna come from out there because they're not gonna have enough food, to eat out there. So they're coming to the cities to rummage, and eventually what's gonna happen? Them wild animals, they don't get any food, they're gonna start eating humans, dogs, cats, or whatever they can get their hands on.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of that during the C-19, where you had a lot of these animals change their places. They start coming into the cities. How much more when the next economic collapse or the martial law, nationwide martial law is declared, curfews are declared. These animals gonna come into these inner cities, man. They're gonna be snatching people up, man.
Yeah. Okay. And the reason why they did that too is because, when everything was shut down, tourists didn't go to these different places and leave food that they normally leave. And then them bears and all that would rummage through and get, whatever little shit that was left. So that wasn't there. So the next step is what? Coming to the cities.
Yep. It says, and salt water shall be found in the sweet, and all friends shall destroy one another.
Right, because things are going to be, changed for the worse. It's going to get worse before it gets worse. It's going to change for the worse. This whole mindset of, people minding their business, leaving people alone, not infringing upon their rights, not, stepping over that boundary is going to be, there's going to be no boundaries in that time. Because people are going to be desperate, and desperation leads to, I got to get some food, and that's going to be the main motivator. I got to get some food, and they if they see you got it and they don't have it, guess what? If they're stronger than you, they're going to take it.
Yeah, that beast-like mindset is going to set in on these people, because they don't have a hedge, okay, a spiritual hedge of what to do and when, do the do's and don'ts.
Yep.
What do they call it? The moral. They don't have any morals,
yep.
No high morals, any internal law that they're going off of. It's just straight up a beast-like mentality. They got it, I'm gonna take it. And then it's the image that's portrayed in all these movies, right?
Yep.
So that's all predicted program, how these people are just going wild out. But that's in the scriptures. We're reading about it.
That's it.
Okay. Let me continue. Then shall wit hide itself, and understanding withdraw itself into his secret chamber.
Why? Because, the average person's mind is going to be set in desperation. And when someone is in a desperate mind state and they're not used to this situation, this calamitous situation, they're going to start going crazy. This is why, people right now, they'll, if they go to the drive-thru or whatever and the food takes 5 seconds longer than it normally takes, they lose it because they're not used to that. And that's BS right there. So how much more when there's nothing there?
Yeah, and there's nothing there, and there's no hope of it ever coming back. See, because there's always, things happen here in America, and America's strong, and the system comes right back online. The internet might go off, but the internet comes back. The grocery store, the lights might go off for a second, but it comes back. There's small inconveniences.
Yep.
But what happens when that inconvenience is there? It doesn't go away.
Yep.
That hell is there. It doesn't go away. And your leaders are not telling you that it's going to get better. You don't see any sign of it getting better. So you come into a different mindset. It's survival now. It's kill or be killed. It's the law of the animal kingdom. And then, furthermore, especially our people, they're going to be calling on all these different gods. Yep. See, and this is the time where it's going to be a proving ground of if your God was real or not.
Yep.
Because would not your God in these desperate situations, will he not come to save you? Right? Mm-hmm. And they're going to be calling on Christ. They're going to Jesus. They're going to be calling on Muhammad. They're going to be calling on the ancestors. And they're not going to be heard.
Yep.
So they're going to cast all that away.
Yeah.
And they're going to go full-fledged, ready for the NWO. Okay? Ready to put that chip inside them. Ready to be animals. Okay?
Yeah, that's why it's important to, proclaim and teach the true names of Yahweh B'Shem El Shai, especially if you know them. There's one thing not to know it and be ignorant of it, but there's another thing to know and to purposely hide it, which makes you a straight up top demon.
It says, and shall be sought of many, verse 10, and shall be sought of many, and yet not be found.
Mm-hmm.
What is the famine of the word?
That's
that wit, the truth. The virgin shall run, run to and fro.
Mm-hmm.
Basically to try to get this truth. And this is why a man of the Lord is going to be very precious in fine gold of Ophir.
Yep.
Because the truth is going to be actually inside that vessel. All right, and you're not going to be able to go to a school. You're not damn sure not going to be able to go to the devil to get the truth. He's going to be telling you nothing but lies.
Yep.
Okay. And shall be sought of many.
They been doing for the last 500 plus years. They're going to keep lying to you like they've been lying to you because they're the liars and the fathers of it.
And shall be sought of many, and yet not be found. Then shall unrighteousness and incontinency be multiplied upon earth.
Yeah, because why? Because people are not going to, control themselves. They're not going to keep those boundaries that they kept at one time. They're going to cross over those boundaries. Especially here in America. You got to remember that these people here are the most comfortablest people on the planet. That's why you think, I don't know the percentage, but I know it's very high percentage of people that are obese and overweight. Why? Because of the lack of discipline. The diet is fucked up, but there's a lack of discipline in this country. To where people don't just get like the elder made a point, like when you go to these like Turkish restaurants or these different other restaurants, Middle Eastern restaurants, when they give you coffee, they give you like a small little cup, very small, tiny cup of coffee. Here in America, you give somebody a cup of coffee like that, they'd be like, what's this?
They'll curse you out.
Yeah, I want an extra large with pounds of sugar and cream.
Yeah, everything is extra large here in America.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is in excess. No moderation. No discipline, no self-discipline, no temperance.
Yep.
So when all these things start to get, pulled back from these people, because you'll have a dinner, you get a big, they sell the big ass burgers.
Yep.
Be like 5-6 patties, 20 slices of bacon,
cheese,
big ass thing of French fries,
man.
a big ass Coke or a Pepsi.
Supersize it.
Supersize it. All right, that's what this society is all about. It's about supersizing. That's why there's a high obesity rate, and then the majority of people are lazy because there's no
incentive.
There's no incentive to be healthy.
Yep.
To do right, and there's no public shaming either.
Right.
Okay, you need to get your ass up off that couch.
Yep.
And start walking.
Yeah. Yeah, and also too, there's the hardships, the so-called hardships they have here today. Pretty much, when people eat these types of foods, they're comfort foods. So it gives them comfort, and when they're stressed out, so there's no incentive to working out because, you got to eat healthy. Y'all eat too healthy for me, and shit like that, and shit like that.
Yeah, and you got the cars. You ain't gotta move. Well, you can now you can have the food be delivered to you. You ain't gotta move.
Yep.
You might have to move a couple of steps just to go pick it up at the
door.
At the door. Outside of that, it's good. It's cooked already for you. You got the silverware and all that. And you got the TV on. You can watch hella Netflix, right?
Yep.
They'll even deliver alcohol.
Oh yeah.
Verse 11. One land also shall speak. One land also shall ask another and say, is righteousness that maketh a man righteous gone through thee? And it shall say no. Yeah, because
knowledge, wisdom, understanding, the ability to think, reason, and solve problems is going to go out the door. So they're going to look for anything or anyone that can make the problem right. But there's going to be nobody.
Well, this is where Edom comes in. He's going to come in with that RFID microchip.
Yep.
He's going to come in with that.
Beautiful.
The pseudo salvation. And this is why he's allowing it to get this bad.
Yep.
And he's going to say, look, with this, I can, depression can be gone. We can change the chemical structure in your body, right?
Yep.
You can have all the food that you want. Now that, you have this C-hip, because we can control and we can give everybody ration. Everything's going to be fair. You can get housing. We can make sure that there's no more riots. There's no more people killing each other. You don't want to be in a state like that, right?
Yep.
You want to go back to the good old days where you can relax and chill and it was safe.
Yep.
Right. So he's allowing all this chaos. You don't want war anymore, right?
Right.
You don't want to send your children out there to the war and die. How about take this? This is going to be salvation. We're all going to come together as a global society and say, stop it. No more.
Yeah.
Just allow AI technology to be inside you. Okay.
Yeah. Problem, reaction, solution. It's getting to the point where people don't even think anymore. They just go to Chat GPT now and then type in, on Chat GPT or Grok or whatever, and then they'll have those sites put together a lesson for them, or put together a song for them, or put together, a journal for them, or whatever the case may be.
Write a book for them.
Yeah, write a book. So pretty much people are being dumbed down more and more. So that's why you brothers out there that use that, be careful, that you don't get caught up. Well, I'm gonna go to Chat GPT. I don't really have anything to go into, so I'm gonna type Chat GPT, and they're gonna put some scriptures together for me, and I'm gonna go into the, depend on the spirit.
Yep. And Chat GPT be going off too.
Yeah.
It's not right all the time.
Yep.
You gotta be careful with Esau's technology.
Yep.
But this is the bait that he wants to, he's using to lure everybody into his system.
Yep.
All right, because now you can't even think for yourself.
Yeah.
You actually need you need his technology.
Yep.
Okay, just to even function. You need his Google Maps. You need his Google to make sure that
Yeah, to go around the corner to the corner store.
Let me continue.
And then then there was another point. Let this madness go by. All right, yeah, it passed. If it come back, then I'll bring it back up.
It says, at the same time shall men hope.
Oh, Salaki, yeah, and that's a Chat GPT, Grok, and all that. That's another way of dumbing you down, because remember, prior to the, cell phones / smartphones, you used to remember damn near everybody's number, everybody's phone number. But once these phones came out, guess what? Everything is stored in there at the push of a button. So you're not dialing those numbers anymore. So your mind is not being used. Your mind is not being, exercised, the water. Because you already everything is programmed.
Yeah, when you don't exercise, you lose tone.
Yep.
Right, things get flabby.
Yep.
Things get, loose. Right, the same thing with the mind, which is a muscle. You have to exercise it. And through this technology, you don't have to exercise.
Yep.
Right? You could just, now what he wants to do is just put it inside you now.
That's it.
Now you can become one with it.
Yep.
Now your IQ can increase 200, 300 points, whatever they say.
Yeah.
All right?
Now, I'm not saying don't use Chat GPT or Grok or anything like that. I'm just saying don't just rely on that for your lessons. I'm going to have Grok or Chat GPT build me a lesson on such and such and give me all the precepts.
What does scripture say? Use this word but not abusing it.
That's it.
And when you go into that word in the Greek, to abuse, I forget the Greek word, but one of the definitions is overuse. So don't overuse these things.
Right.
Right. Have balance, like in everything.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, the Lord said, don't take no thought what you shall speak. Because what about when let's say the internet is down, you can't get on there, and let's say you're trying to do a lesson, whatever the case may be. You want to film a lesson on the side, and then when the internet comes back on, you could upload it. And then you don't have nothing because I don't have Chat GPT, I don't have Grok to put this lesson together for me. I'm lost. Yahweh said, take no thought what you shall speak, for it shall be given to you in that same hour what you shall speak. For it is not you that speak, but the Spirit of my Heavenly Father that speaketh in you. You see?
It says, and at that time shall men hope, but nothing obtain. They shall labor, but their ways shall not prosper.
Yeah, because things are going to be bad. You got people right now that are working, that actually have jobs, that don't have a place to live. Living in their cars, living in tents. Living in shelters, because they don't make enough money to be able to hold down a place, even though they're employed.
They're working homeless. That's what they call them.
Yeah, they got cars, right? They got license. They cash their checks every week, but it's still not enough to pay their bills and survive.
It says, to show these such tokens, I have leave. And if thou wilt pray again and weep as now, and fast even days, thou shalt hear yet greater things.
Yeah, that's pretty much it on that. You know what? We could hit a couple of verses in 2 Ezra 9 and 1, and then we can make this.
I was going.
Yeah.
We tapped in.
Yeah, come, get it.
Come. Yep.
Fuck it.
2 Ezra 9 and 1. He answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made.
Yeah, so pretty much this is what we're actually seeing the signs. You got to understand, everything was established and set up, you know, in different time frames, different empires. And the Lord said, these are signs that's going to be happening and taking place. These are the wonders you have to look for before my son comes back. And this is why we're so adamant through the spirit and power of Yahweh B'Shem El Shai, when we see these things, to talk about them ad nauseum. You know, all y'all guys talk about is the MOTB. All you talk about is World War III. Well, does not the scripture say that the spirit of Yahweh Shai is the spirit of prophecy?
Well, what should we be talking about?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, giving marriage counsel.
Yeah, marriage counsel, and you know, we should. It's bullshit, man. You know, we're not gonna even answer those questions. We're just gonna stay on the course.
That's it.
Because prophecy. See, this is the thing about prophecy. In the prophecies of Yahweh B'Shem Shai, everybody's going to be affected.
Yep.
No matter how you, if you don't like it, if you don't believe it, if you think it's stupid, if you think that it's going to come 100 years in the future, everybody in this time is being affected by prophecy, man.
That's it.
Okay. We're going to continue to speak these things because that's what the Most High wants us to do.
That's it.
To hell what a nigga got to say.
Yeah. Speak in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth. You know, so if you get tired of hearing it, then you're getting tired of hearing the Most High. How many times did the Lord warn Israel that he was going to jack them up before he actually jacked them up?
Yeah, impudent and stiff-hearted people. That's basically, you're fulfilling prophecy.
Yep.
You're part of the prophecy. You're part of the 2/3 if you hear in Babylon the Great.
Yep.
Okay.
And you do always resist the Holy Spirit as your fathers did, so do ye. You know?
Verse 3, therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning.
Right, so these are signs that we're supposed to be looking for. You know, these protests going on. I mean, you talk about back in the days, there'd be shit going on in, let's say, LA and a couple of other cities, maybe in Chicago or New York or whatever. Now this thing they're saying it's breaking out all over the U.S. You know, and they're supposed to be going, I'm not sure of all 50 states, but I'm pretty sure that today they're supposed to be going to like a lot of the major American cities, the big top major cities like San Fran, you know, D.C., out in Chicago, New York, you know, so all kind of shit going on, you know. And then we went to camp yesterday, and they were saying because down in L.A. they burned all those Waymos, they destroyed a whole lot of Waymos down there, right? Which are, you know, these electric cars that are driverless cars that pick people up to bring them wherever. Well, in San Fran, they said they weren't going to have them. And guess what? Yesterday, I didn't see one Waymo. And that's all you see down there when you go down to San Fran. You know, those Waymos all over the place. I didn't see not one. And that was even before the actual protest, which is today.
It says
Donald Trump's birthday, the day of No Kings protest, and also the 250th year celebration of the U.S. military, the Army. You know, because the U.S. Army was established on June 14th, 1775. So today marks the 250th year of the U.S. Army.
she's
Yeah, that's where she's going.
going to go protest.
She probably an agent provocateur.
A white woman.
Yep.
Yeah, and when you see these protests, so-called anti-ICE protests, the majority of the time you see Esau.
Oh yeah.
Esau's the one that's caused it all the havoc.
Yep.
You know, but they blame Jake. Jake is the perfect scapegoat because what is the what is the ways of Jake basically shown on TV? A thug.
Yep.
But they cast a movie. What is Jake? Jake either a drug dealer.
Yep.
He's either a pimp, a rapper,
Or a hoe.
a hoe. You know, you're not casted as like some type of excellent individual.
Right.
You know, some upstanding individual that creates things and
Yep.
you know helps further world and all that humanity. You are casted as somebody that destroys.
Right. You're casted as if you were Esau, because that's what Esau does. Esau destroys the world, but he puts the blame on everybody else.
Yep. It says,
Fucking devils.
"Then shalt thou well understand." That
Oh yeah, and if I just want to say this real quick too, but now next year, 2026, July 4th, will mark the 250th year of the Empire of America. All right. So today, well, actually, in about 2-3 weeks from now, you're gonna get the 249th year of the Empire of America. You know, and then next year will be 250 years, and empires only last about 250 years.
it says, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning.
Right, and this is why we stand upon prophecy, because these things were spoken of before. That's why the Lord said, "Speak in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in your mouth."
For like as
You can't look if you stand on prophecy, you can't go wrong. That's the title for a lesson.
because that's the testimony of Yahushua is the spirit of prophecy.
That's it.
That's Matthew the 7th chapter. That's that rock, that foundation, your house that was built upon that foundation.
That's it.
Nothing can move you.
That's it.
You're immovable because you're on that foundation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why devils like Vocab and them black anti-Christians, they get mad, because they're trying their best to try to sway brothers from the truth, and they can't. They only get in the weaklings, and they get frustrated because they want Jake to blow off the handle, but that's not the type of, that's not the type of I hate to use this word, organization this is. This is not the type of group this is. It's not a thing of aggression. It's a thing of prophecy. It's a thing of truth. And in this society, well, they said it best. In the time of great deception, telling the truth becomes a universal. What is it?
Revolutionary act. Is that
Yeah,
it?
revolutionary act. There you go, the water. So this is why another saying is truth is stranger than fiction. So when and the Apostle Paul said it might become your enemy because I tell you the truth. People don't want to hear truth. So this truth is revolutionizing things. And these devils are trying to put the truth back. They're trying to put the lid back on the truth, but you can't. This is why you got this whole bullshit going on where you're pinning the blacks against the Latinos because you want Jake, to fight against each other to try to upset prophecy. But you're not going to upset prophecy. The cat's already out the bag, dude.
Yeah, I mean, telling the truth is a revolutionary act or dangerous to a society that was built upon lies.
Boom.
It's lies. So the truth will be the weapon to destroy it.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what the Most High is using, the truth to destroy Esau.
That's it.
Because when you speak these different words, remember, words are powerful.
Yeah.
This will stir up kings' minds to go against nations.
Yeah.
This will stir up people to have a different outlook on Esau, to come against him.
Yeah.
Not to believe in his system. So this is very detrimental to his system. This is why he wants to put a lid on it, put a cap on it, to destroy it, to suppress it.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of the apostles and the prophets were locked up. Why was the apostle John on the island of Patmos? For the word of his testimony. Because the Roman Empire looked at it as being seditious.
Yeah.
And anything that was seditious would cause uproars. That's why Claudius kicked the Israelites out of Rome. Because they were stirring up too many problems.
Turning the world upside down through their doctrine.
That's it.
And that's essentially what's happening through the preaching of the word. The word is being turned upside down, but really it's being turned right side up.
Yeah.
It's going back to how it's supposed to go, but in order for that to be fully solidified, destruction has to level everything first.
Right.
With Babylon the Great. Then only can righteousness dwell in the earth perpetually under Yahushua and the Israelites.
Yeah. Because most people view the words in the Bible as just words. And they are words, they're just words. But when they're spoken by the right people, and the prophets, they stir up emotion.
Well, like a song, right? If you write the lyrics to a song, it's just words.
Yep.
Right? If you look at it and you don't know the context, and you don't know the beat that's behind the song, and you don't know the cadence of how to sing that song, it's just words.
Yep.
But you put the right person to sing that song in the correct note, with the right band and the right music playing behind it, then it becomes something that's
extraordinary.
That's extraordinary. That can stir up your mind, change the world. Because you can play positive music, right?
Yeah.
And it'll put people in a positive mindset.
Yep.
You can play negative music, and you can put people in a negative mindset.
Yep.
So the words that we're speaking are very powerful. Is what it talks about, the pulling down of strongholds.
Yep.
All right. Every imagination.
Casting down. Yeah.
Casting down every imagination.
Yep.
So this is a very huge. This is a very also saving those through the foolishness of preaching.
Yep.
This is sealing the elect through the foolishness of preaching.
Right.
Okay, the Most High, ultimately, he's the one who seals them, but he uses the words from the prophets to actually go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, all of these stumbling blocks you put in the way with this Latino against blacks and, these different apologists coming up. You got to remember, the word has been going out before y'all were doing all this shit. So a large amount of Israelites that are potential hopeful elect are already in the mix, so to speak. So those of them that are part of the elect that are solid in their foundation, and if they're the elect, they're solid, you ain't gonna move them.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're doing is the majority of the rest of these Israelites out there, the Lord them. Very few out there that the Lord is going to deliver from among these YNs and all these different hyenas out here.
Yeah, these migrants.
These migrants. Yeah, exactly. It's going to be very few of them. They're just really brought here for judgment. And this whole situation that's playing out, whether it's this controversy with the Latinos against the blacks or whatever, or whether it's these different Christian churches that's pushing their bullshit doctrine, is only going to serve to keep away the undesirables that the Lord don't want anyway. So pretty much it's a win-win situation, no matter how you slice it.
Yeah, and it's a lose-lose situation for Esau.
Yep.
You can't stop this train. All right, that's full steam ahead.
Yeah.
You can't stop the end. No matter what you do, it doesn't matter. You try to put the tribes against each other, it doesn't matter. Because the Lord is only dealing with a small remnant.
That's it.
And this word gives the elect the ability to move past that pitfall or that trap.
Yeah.
It's like they have, I can see that trap, so I'm not going to fall in it.
Yep.
Jake, the rest of our people, they can't see the trap.
Yep.
So they actually fall in the trap. The elect, through the preaching of the word, that's not what that means.
Yep.
The white man, he is the devil. This is what he's doing. Wow, this is,
Yep.
That's the elect being sealed and being confirmed. All right, and seeing the things that are happening, it's like, oh shit, yeah, he is the devil.
Yep.
Yahushua is real. Okay.
Yep.
Even though what this damn devil is trying to, trying to say, this is why the Lord has us combat all these false philosophies.
Yeah.
Let me.
Yeah, and your attempts to most people are, seem like, oh wow, yeah, that's got to be it. Because it said if at all possible they would deceive the very elect, but it's just not possible to deceive the elect.
Yep. Verse 5.
So you could spin your web all you want, it's not going to work.
Well, yeah, because what? The elect have the oil.
That's it.
So they can move under the web.
Woo!
Okay, they can move on the web just like the spider can move on the web. They can get off the web.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's called context.
Yep.
Okay.
For like as all is made in the world has a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest.
There you go.
Even so, the times also the highest have plain beginnings and wonders and powerful works.
Right. So they have plain beginnings, wonders, and powerful works. Go ahead.
And endings and effects and signs.
And endings and effects and signs. That's why we're supposed to be looking for the signs, the effects, the wonders, the things that are supposed to be happening prior to them happening. To identify what these prophecies are and to go out there, blow the trumpet, and warn, the Israelites out there, whether they're here or whether they forbear.
Give them warning from me.
Yep.
That's the commandment that the Lord told the prophets.
That's
He
it.
told Ezekiel, hey, give them warning from me. Whether they hear or whether they forbear, that doesn't matter.
That's it.
Continue to do this, because with the preaching of the word, that word is also going to seal the elect too. Right? But even though it's going to be a small number, all right, the elect are still going to be sealed. The Most High only needs, remember, 12,000 out of each tribe, men with that elect seal to usher in the destruction.
That's it.
Okay?
That's it.
It says, and everyone that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith whereby ye have believed.
And that's it, you know, and that's why the Apostle Paul said, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. Apostle Peter said, you know, give diligence to make your calling and election sure. You know, show the same sure assurance of, of our faith unto the end. Because if we to receive the end of our faith, that's the salvation of our souls, you know. And that's why the Spirit got us going hard and speaking about these things over and over again. You know why? Because they're coming. They've been here. They're coming, and they're getting more and more intense. You know, and just before the Lord lowers the boom, He's going to keep telling you until He stops the warning. When the warning stops, that's when you're going to be in trouble.
When the warning stops, that's when the bodies drop.
That's it. Let the bodies hit the floor.
Verse 8, shall be preserved from the said perils.
That's it.
And shall see my salvation in my land and within my borders. For I have sanctified them for me from the beginning.
That's it. You know, and that's why the elect are always going to come back to the Lord. You know, no matter what. You know, the elect will never be taken away from the Lord because they've been given to Yahushua by the Most High Yahweh. Bottom line. You got anything else?
Yeah, that was pretty much it.
So with that, we pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Till the next time we say, Shalom.
Shalom.
57 minutes.